You can have all that you wanted, darling. No, the world is yours. I've been up chasing the sunsets just to see if there's more. 'Cause it's been so long since I tried to love. It's been so long since I tried to love. It's been so long since I tried to love. It's been so
Welcome to
long
Sparkle Show.
since-
With us, we have Paul. And Paul, you have amazing things going on right now. Tell us what you're doing.
Well, first of all, Sparkle, thank you so much. I feel like a political senator. Thank you so much for having me here. I'd like to thank all my publicist manager. I don't have any of that. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for wearing my shirt. It looks so awesome.
I love this. This is nice and cozy. So explain how long, national award-winning filmmaker. That's got to
I had to put that in there.
Doesn't that feel great to say that, to have a title like that?
Well, to say it's humbling, I mean, it doesn't really do it, because it's so much more than humbling. Because I'm a one-man band and I don't have a crew with me except a guy that helped me out doing drone work. And being I'm in a state that doesn't do film, it's a beautiful state, it just doesn't do any film. There's no industry here. So when opportunities come up and I'm a filmmaker, oh my gosh, I jump right on it. And I thought,
so where exactly do you live?
I live in a town called Minot, North Dakota. And Minot, if anybody sees this, and I'm sure people will see this, they probably were in the military, because we have an Air Force base just north of my hometown, about 30 minutes. And people from all over the country, all over the world have been stationed here.
Wow. Okay. So that's what you're known for. What about how's the weather over there? Is it kind of brisk right now?
I thought you said House of Leather, and I thought I haven't bought anything from there yet. But it's actually, God, my mind is, it's unseasonably warm. In other words, it was 50 degrees out today, and normally here in November, it's very brisk, about 20s-ish, maybe lower than 20s. But this whole month is going to be beautiful weather, so we've been spoiled.
So I would think there's probably a lot of beautiful locations to shoot movies. When does the opportunity come out? Do you create those opportunities, or do they come to you to actually shoot, to film over there?
Yeah. Unlike other places, I'll give you a brief background. That way you can tell why I do. My father worked as a salesman for both TV and radio for 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've kind of been always, he's more into sales. And when I went out there when I was a kid, I would go to see my mother, and she worked in education, but I had no interest in education, maybe teaching video maybe. But when I went out there, and I was a teenager, I thought that was Hollywood to me. Because it's like you open the door and you see the fancy lights. What's the newsroom? It's the camera. It's the studio. I just fell in love with it. And now with him, with his sales approach, I've gone out, and because anytime you think of a sales, you think of, what are you selling? What product are you selling? I thought, well, I'm selling me, and I'm selling video production, and the only person who knows really what I'm doing is me. So I go out there and I cold call. I just say, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to visit. I'm going to say, here's my card. I'd love to talk to you about doing a video for your website or for your business and help you increase business. What do you say? And 50 to 60% of the time it works. Another time you're dealing with the TV stations, as you would in, say, Fresno or any city that does TV. They have like a creative services department. You're competing with them, and they've been around for 60, 70, 80 years. And there's no way you can compete with them because they've built that trust up.
Right.
And here I am, a new person coming in saying, I need you to spend money. It's like, well, they don't want me to spend money. And I thought, you have to spend money. It's a back and forth. So it's really fun when you go in there and you say, I'd like to do an ad for you, a video for you. What would you like to do? Let's talk about that. And one of them I did my taxes in March of 2019. And across the, I guess next door, there was this fitness place called Spectrum Fitness. I just walked in, and I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and I was a physical conditioning instructor. AKA personal trainer. So I went in there. I know what you guys do in here. I'm a video producer. I'd like to produce an ad for you. They said, we've been wanting to do an ad. Boom, there you go.
Isn't it funny? A lot of people just don't even know how to go about it when you're like, hey, I can do this for you and I can help you sell. And it's like you're doing the best of everything you know. You're putting it together. So.
Yeah. And it's so much fun to talk with people about what you're passionate about, because then they kind of feed off that and it makes their guard go down saying, we have no money. It's like, okay, no money means I can't work free. You have $100. Say, well, that's $100 I didn't have. Let me do it for you. But I won't make it look like Hollywood, but I want to make it look good for whatever amount of money you're talking about. And ironically, I did 2 ads for this place. And one of the ads won Best Ad Film at the Vegas Movie Awards. And the other one won Best Ad Infomercial at the Best Shorts competition in La Jolla, California.
Are you serious? Just from doing the ads?
Just from doing the ad.
Wow. Okay, so over here in California, it's actually very hot, and we get mosquitoes out here. So you're probably thinking this is weird for November. This is kind of unusual. Like you said, you're having unusual hot. We're having a little bit of unusual heat too. So I get bet like there's no tomorrows.
Well, see, the mosquito is our state bird, so it doesn't matter. So I had to mention that.
Okay, so you grew up in this. You've always been around.
Yep.
Then you went to the Air Force.
Right.
How did that happen? How are you like, hey?
Well, it was wild too, because I said we have an Air Force base in my hometown here, so it's always been around. We've always had Air Force people come and go through churches, through government, teaching. They're always a part of our community. Well, I got my love and my bug for it. I won't give you the whole behind the scenes because it takes forever to tell, because it's so much fun to tell, but I'll just try to give you a breakdown. I've always loved, like I said, my dad, I would go out to my dad's TV station. It was our CBS station. And I would go hang with the crew, go with them. And I loved it. But I wanted to do more creative. I didn't want to do news. So I remember going down to Bismarck, our state capital, and we didn't have the mall we have here now. Well, I happened to buy the American Cinematographer magazine. And I don't know if you know that or not, if you're familiar with the ASC, which is the American Society of Cinematographers. They're the best of the best in Hollywood and in the world. Mm-hmm. I got the magazine and I didn't know what it was. I thought cinema, well, it's got to be doing with movies. Well, it was all about cinematographers, and I read it and I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do with my life. This is it.
From what magazine?
Yep, just because I had known it from watching films, but that magazine kind of gave me an in to what the world was about, or what that cinematography world was, because nobody does cinematography or much less videography here. It's, it's weddings, or it's like school, or just little things, not really creative. This was telling stories. And I thought, I love this. And I kept reading it. And it was the year that Lethal Weapon came out. So I thought, yep, this is it. I just began reading it. All these directors of photography, cinematographers. I thought, I understand it. I get what they're talking about, because I was terrible at math. I was terrible at like trigonometry and stuff, but I got it when it came to light and how light and photography worked. I got it. And I thought, this is it. So I began doing photography, just still photography with a camera. Began winning a bunch of awards through a state fair. And I thought, I'm pretty good at this. Let me go. Cinematography came from that. And I thought, I want my pictures to move.
That is so cool. I love that. So when you were in the Air Force, were you doing stuff in there, or was that when you were done?
No. It was an interesting story, because in 1987, I went to a year of college at my hometown school here studying news. They didn't have any video production. So my brother had joined I've got an older brother, Paris, and he had a photography studio here in my hometown for about 10 years, I think. So he was in still photography. I was in video. And it was one of those deals where, as I kept doing more and more of photography, I thought, where do I go for this? I don't know. I don't understand. How do I get to, do I go to film school, or what do I do? Well, the Air Force was a way for me to get out of here, explore the world, and then get GI Bill benefits to go to college. So I did that.
I know a lot of people that took that route, yeah.
Exactly, right. And my brother was in the Army, and my father said, I think you'd be better in the Air Force. It's just a better fit for you. So I actually was a fitness instructor in the Air Force. I was training officer candidates and trainees how to work out. It was like a personal trainer for the military.
Right.
And I loved it. I mean, I love staying in shape. I love the workout. I love that. The only thing the Air Force said, you shut the hell up and you're going to do what we tell you to do. You know how the military is. I didn't score well enough on certain points, but I'd had 2 years of it. But they gave me that field, and I loved it. I loved working in the gym, working out. But I kept doing still photography. And when I was down in, I was actually stationed over in Italy for a year and a half. And you remember the Persian Gulf War of 1990?
Yes.
I was over there, not over there, but I was overseas at the time when they did my skull, that time.
So did you take photos like around when you were in Italy and everything?
I did.
So that must have been
Actually,
just great, even now, to have that document, like just.
I do have an entire book. And believe it or not, it's all photographs, actual 35 millimeter photographs, not digital. So every time I take a picture, it's on my Facebook page, and you can see the light glaring off each photograph because it's not digital, it's all film. It's on a matte little photograph. And I've been posting stuff on there because when I was over there, I said, I probably will never be here again in my life, except if I'm lucky enough to get married. I'll maybe do my honeymoon over here, and that'll be a great.
Exactly.
Still waiting. Still waiting. But I came back home, and I had this huge box, this huge bag of film canisters, the 35 millimeter, Kodak, Agfa, Fuji. I took it to the photo lab, and I almost went bankrupt because I had like $600 worth of photographs in there I had to buy. And I thought, I've got to buy every one of them because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So,
isn't this fun living in the digital age now?
Oh, jeez. It's like somebody asked me, I remember years ago, I was living in Houston, Texas, and I was doing some promo photography for an advertising agency, working with women like you and other talents in that same aspect. And she says, do you do digital yet? Well, this was 2002, 2003. So digital hadn't come out yet. And I looked at her like, oh yeah, I can do it. I thought, what the hell? I don't have a digital camera. I thought I need to go buy one, but I couldn't because I couldn't afford it because they were just so expensive back then.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we all had them on our phones.
Yeah, but I have 2 or 3, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I just ordered a new one. So I'm good. I'm looking forward to it because I'm talking with a chiropractor in another city about doing some videos for him.
So how did you become award-winning?
Oh, gosh. Well, I got together with my agent, my publicist, my manager, my 3 ex-wives, my mistress. No. Anyway, that was a joke. I'd always wanted to be good. Always. One of my heroes, I remember going to the theater and seeing the movie Superman the movie with Christopher Reeve. I was like 10. I remember just being enthralled in the world they created. And I remember being affected by light and by color and by angles. So it was like planted in me early, but the movie made me want to be Superman, not a filmmaker. So I knew the power of cinema. Years later, I'm actually in the Air Force. It was kind of a weird timing. I was in the Air Force, Persian Gulf War. This is 1990. In 1991, the war was coming down, so I got a 30-day leave. I came home, and my buddy said, we have to go to this film called Dances with Wolves. And I had never heard of it before. I had no idea what he was talking about. He goes, dude, it's 3 hours long. I thought, you'll be fine. I went into the movie, and I was glued to the screen for 3.5 hours. I was just sucked in. I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be a cinematographer because Dean Semler, who's the Australian cinematographer, won the Oscar for his work on that film. And he did the Mad Max movies. He did Bruce Almighty, Apocalypto, Mel Gibson. That was what I wanted to do because I was so enthralled in the photography. When you see Dunbar, riding across the prairies in the film, my heart it was just swelled. I thought, this is like watching home movies of where I grew up. And they're not making fun of North Dakota. They're celebrating it and the Dakotas. And I thought and it's like, that was it. I said, if I could ever meet Dean Semler and shake his hand and tell him how much of an inspiration it is, and I was able to years later, that's what I wanted to do.
That is so cool. Where did you get to see him?
Well, you know the TV series Yellowstone?
Yes.
Okay. That's all shot in Montana in the Bozeman area. And Bozeman is that's where I went to film school.
Okay.
And that's where I got my film degree. Well, it was my senior year of 1997, and there were a bunch of films being shot. Robert Redford had made A River Runs Through It there way back in 1991. He came back to make the movie The Horse Whisperer. Dennis Quaid was up there making a movie, a modern-day Western. And then the action guy, Steven Seagal, was up there.
Okay.
Okay, well, Dean was directing the Seagal film. And I found out, and I thought, I have to meet him. I have to shake his hand. I have to do it. I wrote him a letter, and about a week later, his assistant called me. He says, hey, Dean wants to meet you. And I just about peed my pants. I thought, are you serious? This is
That is so cool.
So that night,
think that it was even close to you. It's funny because no matter where you are, an opportunity can kind of happen. And I love this story. because of
And
it.
I just met him, and I didn't want to bother him, but I took my picture, and I thought, Dean, do you mind? I just want to, and I was shooting black and white film, which is kind of wild because I'm a film student. Digital wasn't out yet. So I had to take my film school and click, and I thought I got to shut up because of the sound. But I got a picture of me and him, and the cinematographer was a guy named Stephen Winden, and he's famous for the Fast and the Furious franchise.
So did you get some good advice with these guys? Did you guys hang out like that where you asked some questions?
Yeah, I did, because what I didn't want to do, and a lot of people did this, a lot of students did this, they kind of kissed butt. And I didn't want to do that because I felt like I was lowering myself to beg and be a bother. But I said, do you have any advice for me at all? And he was too busy working, but he says, you stick with these guys, because what you have to do on film crews is you have to always make friends with the assistant cameraman. He'll get you in, then you work your way up. And I thought, well, that's great, but I don't want to join the union. I don't want to go to LA. That's not me. I don't really want to do that. I'd rather be a cinematographer rather than assisting, because that's what I'd be doing still to this day. And he just said, just make it happen. It was almost like make your own path, because you'll be a cinematographer. You won't be just another crew member. And I thought, great, let me do that. So when I graduated from film school, I went back home and I just started work as a creative services producer, and I was actually doing it. I wasn't assisting other people aching to do it. And I was actually working, didn't have to join the union, right to work states, all that stuff. And I thought, I love this because I can actually do stuff on my own and call it my own. But Dean and this other cinematographer that I met when I was in the U.S. Air Force, his name was Ken Lampkin, and he was an Emmy Award-winning cinematographer from the Frasier sitcom. And he just took me under his wing. Oop, I think I lost you there.
Sorry, I was like a phone.
That's okay. That's all right. But yeah, that's what happened, because Ken, he kind of took me under his wing, and I was in the Air Force at the time, so I got a couple days off. But he said, this is what a boom operator does. He looked at me, and after he was lighting the scene, he says, you learning anything? I thought, yeah. Kind of put me on the spot. But boy, and I still stay in touch with his wife and his family to this day, because he passed away about 6 years ago. And I thought, this is just amazing. But anyway, getting back to your award winning, didn't mean to go into a diatribe like that. But when I saw these guys, I thought, these are the guys that I want to be like. So I don't want to be good. I want to be great. And years later, literally 20 years later, I'm in my hometown, post-recession, so nothing's been the same. I'm doing a video. You know what a flash mob is? Yes. Okay. I was doing one of those for a local charity. A girl showed up. She was the choreographer of it. And she said, I want you to do a video for my dance group. I thought, absolutely. You can't look for it. Sometimes it just happens. And it was Irish clogging. And I thought, oh, you mean like river dance, Lord of the Dance? She goes, yeah. It's like, oh, I love that. So we began a 2-hour pre-production meeting, and for the month of March 16, we were shooting her dance group. After the movie was all done, it was about 10 minutes long. I thought, I'm going to send this into Film Fest. I just want to see what's going to happen. A friend of mine gave me the address of a film called Film Freeway. I said, I'm going to try. My brother and my sister-in-law lived in Chandler, Arizona, a suburb of Phoenix. I said, I'm gonna go in there for best cinematography. Why not? 2 weeks later, I found out that I won best cinematography, and I still couldn't believe it. From that video, from that little film. And I thought, and I'm gonna send this to more fests. I got excited. I got greedy. I thought, I'm gonna send this to LA, New York, Texas, anywhere. And right. I ended up winning about 11 film festival awards from all over the country for cinematography. And one of them was the Houston World Fest in Houston, Texas. They said out of about 180 entries, I placed third. What was it like? I mean, was this kind of the first validation where you really felt like you were good? I mean, you might have always thought that, but was this the first time you were getting like that from everybody else, that, hey, you're actually really, really good? In a way, good? Yeah. Kind of, because I was still stunned by it. And I think I can't relate to having a child. Like, this is the firstborn. You have pride in it. Well, it was my firstborn. This is the first thing that I've done that's been nationally recognized. And I would tell people, and sometimes people would say, well, that's nice. I thought, no, it's freaking amazing. Come on. So people kind of didn't get it, but then but my excitement with my film friends on Facebook, everybody was cheering me on. And I actually wrote Dean Semler, the guy that I told you about, I wrote him a letter because he had won a Lifetime Achievement Award out in Hollywood 3 years prior that I missed. So I said, oh, wow, I better send him a congratulations. So I said, Dean, this is Paul. We met in film school in Montana. and this is my award, and I just wanted to say thank you for being such an inspiration to my life, because without your work, I would have never be a cinematographer. 2 weeks later, oh, no, not, yeah, about 2 weeks later, Dean calls me directly, and I missed the call 3 times. And I'm on the road one, going out of town. Another time I just missed it because I was at work. Finally, he calls me, and I thought, I am so sorry. It's like, before I even said hello. We talked for about an hour about film. And it was the phone call of my life. I didn't ask him for work or anything. It was like 2 equals talking with each other about film. So it was amazing. And he wanted to see the film, and I thought, oh no. Please don't. But he enjoyed the work, and I thought that's because his wife's a dancer.
That is such a great story, and I love that he called you. I mean, that he's really reading like his mail and stuff. I always wonder how it gets to them and if they're really reading it. And it's
well, it's one of those deals where so many cinematographers and directors they'll say, "Do you know who I am? I'm way too busy for you. Leave me alone. Go through my publicist." These people were direct. They were so down to earth and friendly. It made you want to be like them. And I thought, it's like, that's what I want to do, is I want to be somebody who can help other people, because it's great. Just don't give me this big shot ego attitude. I don't want to be around that. I've been around that enough.
Well, I've noticed, having done interviews for a very long time, all the people that were really big, that really made it, really nice and down to earth, everything that you're talking about. And the people that had the egos and the attitude were like, if I said their name, you wouldn't even know who they were. So everybody that's really bad, in my experience, have been just the greatest people. So you probably felt a little bad. So you could tell like almost like the pros from like everybody else. It's like they're always shining. And
that was the thing I liked it so much, because there were so many people out there. I remember living in Dallas. This is 2015. I worked at the TV station. No awards yet. So I was nobody, really. It was almost like LA, New York, non-union. That's what it felt like, because if you're not the best, the best, but in your head, get away. I don't want to meet with you. It was like that. And I met some camera operators, and camera operating it's a skill, but it's not a cinematographer award-winning skill ego thing. But I met people there who thought their work was no fault in it.
Really?
They had massive egos. And I thought, I can't be around this. I need to leave, because what you're giving me is toxic. You think you're the best ever, and you kind of suck, So it was one of those.
Yeah, it's another thing I know.
It's bad to say, but it was so true. And I thought, I don't know how you get up and move in the morning, because you are just an idiot, just in how a person comes off. And I'm sure they're very nice people, don't get me wrong, because some of them were very nice, but it was just ego, and it's Dallas, and they had film industry there for a number of years, but it just got too much. But I love the gentleness, the down-to-earth type thing, and I thought, that's what I want to be like, and being able to help other people, and I want to help them succeed, because I'm seeing all this stuff myself. I'd like to share it,
So what year was it that you won the awards for the...
It's actually been 2016 till about 2 weeks ago.
So it's still going on. How do you... How do you keep doing that? You said 2 weeks ago, so it's like that. This is going on for 4 years. And you're winning the awards.
I'm sorry. So say, what else is there to do? COVID is screwing everything up.
But for this same project, you've been winning awards for 4 years.
Actually, no. I won. It's kind of a cyclical thing that I'm noticing. I did it was called Magic Tap Cloggers, and that was the first one, and that ran on the film festival circus for around a year or so. And it kind of tapered off a little bit when you're not being accepted. It's like, okay, maybe that's time to move on. I did the commercial, the Spectrum ad group. I think it was called Group Fitness. That was about a couple months later. And then I did my first hip hop rap music video. And it was a guy, a bass. He was an airman at the base. Him and his wife were stationed there. And he contacted me saying, "You've never done this, so let's talk about fee and all that other stuff." Because he's like, "Dude, I just won a bunch of awards for this video, but let's make yours." So we came to a good agreement. It only took literally a couple of like a week to do, with a couple of days of 1 hour shoot. We had to get the light right, because there had to be a dusk kind of deal. And I thought, dude, this looks great in this camera. Let's go. So we shot for like 3 days for like an hour each day. And that won Best Cinematography at the Top Shorts Awards. LA Shorts a gold winner for Best Music Video. And then in Houston again, I won a bronze Telly Award for Best Cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept going. And I thought, I was speechless. I thought, I'm not that good, but I'm good. And then that led to a featured documentary that I made about an oil company out in western North Dakota. And it was my first feature film documentary. And it was just me and a guy that does drone work. And I worked on it for about 9 months. So I was literally just like a feature. You're just exhausted at the very end. And I thought, I'm gonna do this again. I want to send this out and just see, because this is my first feature. I got to know how I'm going to do. I won Best Director Honorable Mention at the New York Film Awards, Best Cinematography nomination at the LA Film Awards, and then a bunch of certificates of achievement from the Independent Film Awards in Los Angeles.
Wow.
So yeah, that was mine.
Going for you.
Yeah. Well, it was wild because it's like you never expect it, because it's like your children. You're so happy you're pregnant, and each one is different, but yet you love them all the same. It's like I don't have any kids, but I can relate kind of because you gave birth to this. And
well, if they knew the dedication and work it takes, then it is like giving birth.
Oh yeah. And then this last one was about the COVID. And it was, I was looking around, this is March of 2020. And when COVID hit, in small towns, nobody really notices them because small towns don't make the news. It's, LA, New York, whatever. But I was looking around and I saw things being shut down. And normally when you see it shut down, it's like a renovation or something. It's like, oh, they'll be back in a month. Well, this was starting and I thought, this is so uncommon. It looks like a sci-fi movie. Ding, 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 ding. And then that went off, and I thought, why don't I make a short film about this? How people are coping with COVID. And my insurance guy is the mayor of Minot. And he said, why don't you do it about businesses? Because it's affecting businesses more than it is personal people. Like, we went through a flood.
This is what I love about small towns. You said your insurance guy is the mayor?
Yeah. He's actually very good, actually. But my hometown's
really good what? Insurance guy or really good mayor?
Both. He actually used to be our CBS anchorman for about 10 years.
Nice.
And then I got into politics, or I got into politics after that. It's like, well, it's a natural progression. If you're a TV person, you're gonna run for mayor, probably. That's how it works, But I was talking to him about it, and he says, I want to interview you about how the city's going. He goes, no, I don't want to be interviewed, but talk to these other guys about business development and get like a ton of different businesses from like a school.
Interesting.
Just get 7 different businesses and see how it's affecting them. And I thought, perfect. So I did. I just went out for 2 weeks and I got it done. And that won a bunch of awards. I was just nominated 2 weeks ago for Best Cinematography and Directing in Chicago, Istanbul, and another one I'm still waiting for.
And you're trying, you have a lot more documentaries lined up in the works, right? Tell us about some of the other stuff that's coming up.
Oh, gosh. I don't know what's documentaries, although I'm still trying to figure stuff out for 2021 because 2020 is such a terrible year. You can't really plan anything for this year. What I'm trying to do is I have to give a shout out to a dear friend of mine, Kendra Royal. I completed a music video for her and it was all done remote. And it was like, and that's going to be released in November.
Isn't this testing your strengths too as a director and cinematographer, like doing stuff like that and doing stuff from, I think we all kind of got challenged this year and learning what we could do.
Well, I think it's almost a good thing. I was actually having a talk with a woman. She lives in Montreal, and we connected through a bunch of these Facebook pages. I put my awards on. I want to connect with you and talk about projects. So it's great. Right. I love COVID, but I hate COVID. But she wants to do a bunch of videos in Quebec. Kendra and I want to do more videos. A woman I know named Leslie, she lives in Texas. She wants to do a documentary about her faith journey. And that's perfect. I've known her for 10 years. And then another actor in Hollywood sent me a script. He saw my work and he says, I'd like you to shoot my project for 2021. And I was driving and I almost got into an accident. I thought, is this real? Come on. It's like this, because I know the movie. He was in Superman, the movie, the 1978 version.
Wow. It's
like, this guy is legit times 10. And I just talked with the publicist yesterday about another podcast interview for January. And I thought, this is just unreal.
You're lined up. You are amazing.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And it's just wild because you want to share this with everybody, because if you're single, like I am, no wife, no kids, who do you tell? And do they look at you like, really? What fantasy world are you living in? It's like, no, this is real. Seriously. And I've been telling people, about you and everything. So
where can we see all this stuff? I think what everyone's wanting to know where we could see some of these works.
Absolutely. I was working on that today. It's a Wix site, so it's kind of a long one, but it's Paul Brenno, wixsite.com/PB Films and Media.
Okay, and that's where we can see all of your stuff, and you probably have it on.
Not all of my stuff. I just put the best stuff on when I send it out to like producers.
We can find this on your Instagram and Facebook as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, Instagram, it's at Paul is Photoman, which I think is a cute title. And then my YouTube is, I think, Paul Brenno, award-winning filmmaker on YouTube. And it's got everything. All the good and all the crap is on there. So I love showing everything.
Well, that's good. I mean, we'd like to see it all. This is so awesome. We got to keep up with you and keep what you're doing. Do you have a Facebook page, or it's just your regular Facebook we could follow you at?
I do have a professional page, but people can, and I can't remember the name of it offhand, because a lot of times I was hacked, and it's like they started putting a bunch of junk on my Instagram page.
Oh, no.
My Instagram, so I had to redo it again. And luckily it hasn't, but I'm getting lots of interest from actors and actresses, and I can't do anything for them because they think I'm Mr. Big Shot. And it's like, well, I am in my head, but not in real life, But they can reach me via my Facebook page, and unfortunately, if I could show it to you, I would. But it's Paul Brenno, and that's just my name, and they can look it up because I'm the only one out there. It's not like John Johnson or one of those common names. If you look at Paul Brenno, you can see I'm on LinkedIn, and just look up my name, PaulBrenno, and they can find me. And if they can't find me, I'm going to information. They can contact you.
They can look at my shirt,
please forward stuff onto me. Yes. Well, I'm looking, but I want to look at your eyes. That's the only thing.
Where are people going to order these if they want these?
Well, I just order these. These are they just come to me and call me, and I've got them all. Like on order history on some pages. And
I was one of the first ones to get it. I
love that because I was hoping to ask you to wear it, and I thought this is so great because you look so awesome.
Well, it was like made for me. It was perfect. Paul, we love this. I love this interview. You have so many good stories. One day you should probably make a documentary on yourself.
That'll be the lighting won't be right. So they'll probably
you have to find someone as good as you.
I'll light me. I'll get somebody who looks exactly like me as a stand-in. I'll sit him down. I'll use my boy Kevin Costner. He can be my stand-in. How about that? But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I was so happy when you contacted me because I don't expect any of this. And it's so great when you can I'm so thankful that with all the controversy with Facebook, I love the fact that it can connect people that you probably would never have met otherwise.
Right. I always try to put that out there because I've seen all the bad side and the good side. Like there's a lot of good things do come out of Facebook. So we can still keep.
So I'm just loving the connection. And somebody said, "Oh, you're feeding the man. I'm getting off it." And I thought, "Well, get off it. I'm staying on. I'm getting exposure. Shut up." I love this.
Right. Thank you so much for coming on, Paul. We're going to follow you, and we're going to keep up with you. You're the kind of man I have to interview at least like once every year and see what's going on.
Well, the great thing is I'm living in North Dakota now temporarily, helping my dad out. I'm actually heading to Arizona next month for an extended stay, and I just want to connect with people down there and in Hollywood. Heck, I may even come see you because it's going to be a shorter trip.
That would be awesome. I can't wait.
Freak you out. I'll let you know. But if I show up on your door, you'll know that I'm there, But it'll be great to be down there because I just love Arizona.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Paul. We really appreciate you being on the Sparkle Show.
Well, it's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm going to do everything I can to I just want to get better and better and help promote your show, too, because it's amazing. I love it.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Sparkle Show. With us, we have Ian. Ian, how are you today?
Well, how are you?
You have a lot going on. You were like an actor. I saw your resume and I'm just like,
yeah.
I can't keep up with your life. This is crazy. And how long ago did you start acting?
Well, I shared a picture just the other day. I actually was on stage for the first time, probably around 3 or 4 years old, at a community theater show with my father, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother. So that was a long time ago. And then I got out of it.
Your great grandmother, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so we had 4 generations in the show. Yeah, but then of course I took a long hiatus from it until the end of high school, and then I started theater pretty seriously in college, and then film and television when I got out here to California about 10 years ago.
Okay, be honest. What do you like more, film or theater?
It depends. So kind of the good and bad thing about theater is that once you do it, it's over. Which it's really good because it's a really special moment, and only those people that are there at that moment partake in it. But film is great because it sticks around. So it is around for other people to see. I will say though that theater is very unnerving. It's the scariest of what I've done. It's
No mess ups. It's like it's all on.
Yeah, it is what it is as soon as you do it, and yeah. So the pressure is on for theater, and I mean for film too. I mean when the cameras get rolling and you have to hit the take, and especially I mean I haven't done a lot of like large budget projects, but if you're on a big
if you mess
project,
up, it's
yeah. I mean you're looking at tons of people, and all that time is based on this one shot, and yeah, if you blow it, you're not going to feel good about yourself.
okay. So you did through high school. Did you go to college and did you study that in college or did something else?
Well, this is where it gets a little weird. So my degree is in chemistry. So I actually was pre-med. Like I was planning on going to medical school when I went to college. And I ended up minoring in theater and then later went to grad school for theater. But yeah, I remember specifically the evening that I called my father to say I was switching my major from chemistry to theater. And it was a very late, very early morning conversation. My mother answered the phone, and it was in the wee hours. And she hands the phone over to my father, and I hear hello.
Oh no,
hey, Dad, I'm changing my major. I'm changing
you
it.
woke him up to tell him this?
Oh yeah.
You're so messed up, Ian.
It wasn't the smartest thing to do, I know. But I said, Dad, I'm changing my major to theater, and there was just silence. I mean, just dead silence. And then probably like what seemed like an eternity, but it was probably a full minute later, I hear, "Call me tomorrow, Ian," and that was it. So I hung up, and I never made the phone call because I knew what that meant. I finished my major in chemistry. Yeah.
Can you imagine being a doctor right now?
Oh, no, I can't.
Well, you kind of dodged a bullet on that one.
Yeah,
right now.
And I mean, and I know physicians, and hats off to them for. I mean, just in general. I mean, obviously, right now it's a crazy time in the medical community, but just
yes, I had a friend that did die of COVID. That was a well-established doctor in town. So I'm glad that you chose the safer route and you became an actor.
Yeah, it's very fiscally smart too.
Well, but you're really doing. I'm sure there were a lot of hard times until now, but right now you're on your game. You're on your A game right now.
Well, with when this whole thing happened with COVID and everything got shut down, and I'm in Los Angeles, so it's really has been on pretty tight lockdown compared to some other areas in the country. And once everything got shut down, we weren't allowed to work. Especially going through, SAG is basically you weren't allowed to get out there. So I started. I took a filmmaking course. I did an online filmmaking course. I started writing all those things that I said I would do or knew that I should do, especially in today's age, because it used to be you couldn't just easily go out and shoot a short film or make a feature without crazy amounts of money. But now it's so easy. And people are making them on their cell phones, and editing software is easy to get and relatively easy to use versus a long time ago when you actually literally cut film. So yeah, I just decided to start working in that. And what I've seen lots of times is as soon as you start putting work out, just start putting the work out there, things start coming around. And that's what's happened this year. It was very slow. I started putting the work out there and some other things started coming back in. So,
you made lemonade with those lemons.
Yeah, that was just it. Tried to, yeah. I mean, because again, we're going to be dealt these hands that aren't necessarily hands we want, but there's something in there to use. There's something in there for us, and it was really one of the best things that I've done in my acting career. Was just taking that time to do this film school and start writing. So I wrote a feature. I'm a couple drafts in on that now, and then I wrote a short film. So how do I put this? So I wrote this feature film. And I was really on this roll, and I was on my second draft. It was really starting to shape up, but there were still some holes in it that I needed to fix. And one of my mentors that I chat with, Del Weston, he runs the Action on Film Festival, really great dude. And he's like, look, you got to step away from it and then come back to it. So that's when I decided to do my short film. So I stepped out, decided to write a short film, shoot it, edit it, get it out there, get it into festivals. And the goal was
you did that during COVID?
Yeah. Very small. Basically, we run camera. Camera guy was also
you're really underplaying that. Yeah. I mean, like it's nothing.
Yeah, well, a very small group, and a lot of it was outside actually. But yeah, so we had.
Well, no, I wasn't saying that you weren't safe. I was just surprised that you really to start doing all this and getting it done and the follow through all of it during COVID. That's really impressive.
Well, it's taking advantage of the opportunity because, you know, a lot of people were just stir crazy and wanted to do something.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I did a few actors that were really great. And I had a guy that was my DP that he just wanted to do something. So we just got together and got it done. And you know, I knew because things were shut down, these people were just twiddling their thumbs wanting to do something. So my goal was to actually go from concept to completion in less than a month. And that's what we were able to do. Yeah, so concept, wrote it, cast it, shot it, and I actually had to edit it myself. So I edited it and then released it and then entered it in the festivals.
Did you like it? I mean, was that an interesting process, or do you just like, no, I like being an actor? Like, explain how an actor enjoys, that's a lot of work editing. I mean, I know
yes
what goes into that. I have somebody that does my show because I am incapable of doing that because it's so hard. So tell us that, how it went for you.
Well, I mean, first, and I directed it too, so there was a whole lot of just ridiculousness.
Did you act in it as well, or this?
Yeah. And then there were a couple scenes I wasn't in, so I asked Michael to let me run the camera on the scenes I wasn't in, so I could actually have some practice shooting as well. So I used to make fitness videos for a company years ago, and so I kind of have a rudimentary knowledge of editing from that. And then I thought I was going to be able to get some help on the editing, and it just fell through. So that's why I had to do it myself. But part of it was part of the impetus behind it was, so I've written this feature, and the hardest part is always raising the money to shoot the film. I mean, even though if you don't need a lot of money, it's still not easy to raise 40 grand or 50, or 100. It's not easy to raise it. And I thought, you know what? If worst comes to worst and I have to do this myself, I want to be able to. So that's why with this short film, I wanted to make sure that I could actually take it from concept to completion and release it. So that was part of the deal there. And then the other thing was, if I'm able to raise money, which I hope to be, then I will know when I'm communicating as a producer on the project, when I'm communicating with potential DPs, potential editors, potential actors, potential distributors, all these different people, I'll already know the process, and I'll know if this is a fair amount of money for what they're doing or not, because I've done it. So it was really just I really wanted to get in there to the nitty gritty and really just do all of it. And again, it was such a time crunch, and I could go back and I could tweak things here and there, but it was a great learning experience and one that I really got a lot out of. And
that's amazing. I bet it's really going to help you when you go back on set and you're like, I know what it was like to do this, and that. I've done it all. I mean, you can really kind of say you've done it all. You jumped into every role possible.
It does help. And I do some fight choreography as well. And I teach a small group here in LA.
How fun. I love that. When did you get into that?
So in 2000, I was in my first ever professional acting job. And it was this outdoor drama in Ohio. And one of the things that we were allowed to do or been able to do was take classes through the SAFD, Society of American Fight Directors, because our director was part of that crew. So we learned basic stage combat. So we did a few different things: unarmed, rapier, dagger, broadsword, and staff. And so we did that because that show had a lot of combat in it. Mm-hmm. And then later, I mean, I've done martial arts since I was a kid. And then later, since I've been in LA, I did a couple. Art Camacho's workshop. I went through one of his longer workshops. Then I went, did a couple short ones with him.
Nice. I'm going to interview Art in a few weeks. So
yeah, it just came out too. Yeah, it's the Camacho Experience, I think it's called. But yeah, that's just either just came out or is about to come out. But he's a really cool dude. And then the Ree brothers, Simon and Philip Ree, I was doing one of their workshops, and so I just kind of got into it that way. And then of course I'm in martial arts training, and then I was doing some web series work, and the gentleman that was running that show, he's like, hey, do you want to start doing fight choreography? I said, sure. And so I just started working then, and that would have been I want to say 2015 or 16 maybe, when I actually started as a choreographer on the project, as well as a fighter and actor. But yeah.
And then what made you decide to start teaching it after actually going through all that?
Well, the reason I took it on is looking at the projects that are available today. So many actors are kind of in the boat that I'm in, where we're not necessarily getting called into these huge budget projects where they're going to put in a stuntman or a double to do these things for you. And it's not always necessarily some huge big fight. It might just be a few punches, you know, and then selling them convincingly, and then it's over. So what I decided was, as an actor that does my own stunts, I'm like, you know, there are actors that don't necessarily need to really do large fight choreography pieces for their work. They're not necessarily doing martial arts movies like I'm doing. They just need to be able to sell a punch and throw a punch. So what I started doing was specifically teaching fighting for film for actors, because there is a difference between someone that is a stunt person and an actor. And some people are great at both, don't get me wrong. But you know, if you're known as a stunt man, sometimes it's hard to get work as an actor.
I noticed that. Yeah, I've seen that happen.
But the reason I think it's important, especially now for people that aren't necessarily at a high level yet in the business, is because these lower paying jobs, you get the SAG ultra low budget, or even a lot of the non-union projects, they're not going to be able to afford to pay for this additional, you know, fight person to come in just for a few punches. So that's where, like, if you're an actor that has that skill set, it can only help you. So that's why I started doing it.
Right. That's really good. And that's a good skill set to have, even if you don't get the work. It's like, well, at least you got to have the physical activity, you got to have some fun, you got to learn some things. So that's pretty cool.
And it's funny because, you know, people come in and it's only a couple of hours each class, but they're normally sweating pretty good at the end. And basically it's like a 4-week, it's 4 classes. And then at the end, I mean, you can continue, but that's kind of like the crux of it. It's basically 4 classes once a week. And at the end, provided you've done what you need to do, then I have an option at the end to shoot a reel. So, or shoot a scene for these people. Because
that is really cool. Oh my gosh, where do we get this information if we want to do all this? Are you on a break? Is it COVID, or is it still?
I'm on a break right now because the studio where I work out of is of course closed. I anticipate it'll open up pretty soon, and I've wrestled with the idea of trying to go out to the park, but there is actual contact, and it's just not worth it for me at this point to, you know, put people at risk. And, you know, in our community, the acting community is pretty, seems to be pretty serious or adamant about not wanting to engage in that kind of capacity.
Right.
So like, I actually have a group that was halfway through when we started the lockdown. So when this finally lifts, I'll have to bring them back in, do a refresher class, and then get them through the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
Wow, you have so much going. I love how you take one little thing and kind of run with it, because it was like you took the choreography that you did one time and then made it into something. You took a movie, an idea, and made it into a short film, and then ran with it. Is that how you usually do things in life?
Yeah. So, how do I put this? So again, my degree is chemistry. I was supposed to have been a doctor, and I didn't do that. And I've never had like a regular 9 to 5. When I got out of school, of course, I had a lot of student debt, so I worked 3 jobs. I was a bouncer, I worked security, and I was a trainer. So I was working 7 nights a week and 5 days a week just to pay off my loans and get out of that trap.
I hear you.
But once that was done, yeah, so most people can probably relate to that. But once I got that paid off, I ended up running my own training business. Now, if you're an independent contractor, you understand how that works. I mean, yeah, you might have 30 sessions or 35 sessions a week. It sounds like, oh, great, you're only working 30 hours, but it's really 50 or 60 hours by the time you get everything done. But I've always just, how do I put it, just taken it upon myself to make sure I can do what needs to get done. And as an actor out here, it's if you have a 9 to 5, you have a hard time getting to auditions. It's a little easier now, of course, with a lot of these auditions are Skype and whatnot now for the time being. But I've decided, or I guess the plan has been to do enough to sustain myself, just to be able to sustain myself so I can stay in the game and continue to audition. So like that's how I do it. And so that class I teach is ideally it's basically every other month. So I teach for a month, and then I shoot the reel or the scenes for 1 month. Then I shoot so basically just going like that would be ideal. And I keep the classes small too. That's something that I'm proud of, and I think is great for newbies. Is I limit it to 6 people, so it's only 4 to 6 people.
So they have to be really committed, right? When you let them in there, I mean, because you can't have somebody trying it out at that point.
Right. I mean,
it wouldn't even be economically worth it for you. Like they have to commit. Once they commit, that's
yeah. So basically what I do, I mean, and at this point, and it might change with the way things are going, but it's $200 and that's 4 classes. So basically it takes you through the month. And then after that, I have a price that someone pays to do
that's really good.
Yeah. So, and I don't remember what's on my website now. It's somewhere $120, $150 if someone wants to shoot the scene. Because what I do then is I take these people to a park or wherever, and I take 2 students, and then I basically for a half hour to an hour is I build a fight with them, and it's a 30-second.
I love this idea. I haven't heard of it because reels are such a big thing now that you have to like present that. So that is so smart. Is that a thing that's becoming a thing, or did you make it a thing?
I mean, I'm sure other people do similar things to this, but getting footage is a tough thing as an actor.
Right. That's why this is so brilliant.
Yeah. So the way I shoot it, and so that's the other thing is I shoot it, and then I send the clips to an editor. I have him edit it, put it to music. So then when it's done, they have something they can present. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not shot on a red, and it's not like crazy lighting. We're talking natural lighting with a DSLR. But the way I shoot it and the way I have it edited is so the casting director can actually see what you can do. Because you probably have watched some of these movies these days with the fight scenes. You have no idea who's doing what. It looks cool, but there's so much jumping and cutting back and forth. You can't really tell who's doing what. So when I shoot these, I make sure to showcase. I do a lot like cowboy shots, so knees up, or like I do some super close-ups for some accent and for just for a little bit of character and fun, but a lot of it is done to show the movement of the actor. So the casting director or the director can really see, hey, this person can actually do this.
I love that. That's really cool. That's so good. That is just so important to have on your belt, that notch. Like you said, that's just amazing. And to give them the real footage,
yeah, and it's so tough because, I mean, I've done, when I started in film in 2009, I think was when I shot my first short. It was a great experience, but I got some footage from it, but they never finished it, but I got some footage. But then I've done other things where, I mean, I've showed up at studios to get footage because I'm like, you do stuff that lots of times you're not getting paid anything, early on in your career. And the only reason you do it for 2 reasons: for IMDb
credit and the footage. And I've left without either one of them sometimes. Yeah. And it's yeah.
Frequently that's what happens. So that's why I did this. And that was also part of what I was doing with my my short, was I wanted to have some nice scenes so I could give my people footage quickly, so they would be getting new footage during this time when nobody's getting new footage, and
right.
they would get IMDb credit when nobody's getting credit. So that was
I bet it was so fun too.
It was really cool. I mean, it's stressful, of course. But
I bet it was fun for them because, like you said, there's nothing else going on. So just to be able to do what you love with your friends, and it's like not a super time restraint where you're doing all these other things. I bet they came in there ready to play and party and have a great time with us.
They did. It was really great. And part of what I did to try to make it a little more, I think we've all been on sets where we've worked 16 hours. And I had some great experiences. Sometimes it's really fun. Other times it gets to you. So with this, I took, it's almost 12 minutes. I think it's 11 minutes, without the title and credits. I think it's between 10 and 11 minutes. So, you're looking at about 10 pages. And so if you really crank, especially if it's just dialogue, you can sometimes just run it one camera, quick setups, because we're running small amounts of lights. You might be able to get it done in one day, like one really long day.
Right.
Instead, I said, you know what? Let's just not rush it. So let's just enjoy our days. So I broke it into 2 days. So we shot about 5 pages a day. And we had a little car movement and stuff, which was kind of not like a crazy chase, but learning how to edit that. And envisioning the way it should go. And then, so a little funny story about that. I of course know how we drove the car. So I had a police car come in and got that. And so I had a police car following me and all this other stuff. And you're kind of running guerrilla. You're not necessarily supposed to be doing what you're doing. But I know the streets. And so when I'm editing this, I'm like, well, that wasn't that street. That was this street. Then I have to step back and look at it and go, wait a minute. Nobody knows, as long as you're inside the car in a close-up, and then you take a turn, and nobody knows this street. So that was a learning experience, edit that and shooting it too, going, okay, what do I need to get me from here to here? So that's well.
How did you enjoy the editing? To me, that's like so tedious. I know some people hate it. I've never gotten a handle on it. How did you do this?
So I learned. Again, I did some fitness videos back in the day for RX Muscle, so I kind of had an idea roughly of what to do. But I learned, one thing that I learned for sure was, as an actor, we see the finished cut, and we're like, why in the hell did they use that take? I mean, of all the ones, that was where I was like, I had an eyebrow up, and I was like, my head's cocked, and like, why did they use that one? But when I was editing, what I saw very quickly was I'm not a great editor. I'm sure a great editor goes through, and especially when they take more time, they're like, okay, they weigh all these things out. But for me, I was going, okay, what fits here? What technically fits? So I go from a 2-shot down to a 1-shot, and I'm like, okay, or medium close-up, and I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm going on a close-up on Chicago. He was one of the actors in it. I'm like, so which take? Okay, here's one that fits because he's in the same position. It's on the right line. So I put that in, and I run with that for a while. And I'm like, okay, it's time to cut over to me. Well, I was across from him. So I let the audio go, chop the picture, and I go over to me, and it's just like, that fits. And a lot of it was really just kind of which pieces fit together, as long as the acting was acceptable. So it's kind of like, and I haven't thought about it this way before, but you know how you put a jigsaw puzzle together, and one side has the picture and the other side is just brown? So it's kind of like, when I was editing, it was more like I was doing it with the brown side, just so the pieces would fit, right? And then when you flip it over and look at the picture, you're like, okay, it either does or doesn't match. It was more like, that's kind of the technical versus the art, if that makes sense. Or
it is. No, that's why I was like, the fact that you're doing all of this, it's like, I understand. I mean, even though I am not good at it or can't do it, I still understand the process. That's why I give you mad props.
It was interesting. And I got a buddy, Ricky Bolda. He was actually on that short film I did years ago, and he did a feature with me too. Good dude. But he's one of my editors that when I do these fight things too. But I talked to him. I was like, hey, I got feedback from him occasionally, and so he gave me some ideas to help improve my editing as I was doing it, which was good. But here's the kicker. Well, okay, I said before, it's so inexpensive and so easy to do this now, and I'm editing on my computer's over here, so I'm just looking over here at this dinosaur. It's like might be a 10-year-old computer, 8-year-old computer, and the software for editing, it's like the Sony Vegas, not the good stuff, like the regular like $100 stuff. It's 7 or 8 years old. So I'm editing on old software, old computer, and it still works. You know, you get it done. So a lot of people have excuses. I'm like, well, let's just use this. But here's what got me. Here was the kicker. I had probably 20 edits, like 20 different cuts as I was going along, and I was almost at the end. And then I was trying to render like the final one, and it died. Like, it just wouldn't work. And I mean, to this day, I don't know why it wouldn't go. I deleted a bunch of stuff on my computer and all this. What I ended up having to do, like, I mean, it was done. I had since you've edited, you know what it looks like, kind of, or you've seen it. There's this thing on the bottom, You've got all your picture pieces, you've got all your sound pieces, your sound effect pieces, you got your titles, you've got credits, you got it all here, it's ready to go. All you do is you push this little button that says render, and it's done. I'm pushing render, and what came out was not right. It just didn't work. So what I had to do then was, it was horrible. I had to take what came out, which had like these 3 pieces that were like the sound was completely messed up on. And then I had to go and so I took that as my new base, and then I had to, I guess, do sound design. So I was pulling audio from other clips and pasting sound in there, adding new sound effects. It was pretty crazy. But other than that, I actually enjoyed the editing process. But when I had technical difficulties, I was not the happiest of campers.
Oh my gosh. I know about tech difficulties. That's just not fun. Oh my. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here. What should we look out for you? Like, what's coming out that we should be like?
Okay, so I did a film recently in Nevada called Obscura, and that should be out probably early next year. And if you think of a like a Predator, Tremors / Aliens deal, it would be in the right ballpark.
What's your usual get down? So you did some action stuff. Now you're doing some paranormal, horror, sci-fi stuff. What's your preference?
Well, I mean, I do everything. So I mean, again, I minored in theater. I was in grad school for theater. I mean, I trained in San Diego, and I trained here in LA at a couple of different places, one of which was a 2-year Meisner program. So I've trained extensively in acting.
What was the 2-year Meisner program you did?
That was the Ruskin, the Ruskin School. So basically, Sanford Meisner, I don't know if you're familiar with Meisner.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Meisner method. I wanted to know which one you went to because I know the different ones in LA.
Yeah, the Ruskin School. So John is actually, he was one of Sandy's apprentices way back in the day. So yeah, back in New York. And so he runs the school over here, him and Mikey, great group. So yeah, I did the 2-year program over there. I actually sat for 1.5 years as an apprentice. I was going to teach, and then, you know, things changed to where I had to shift gears. But yeah, so I did that. So I say all that to say that, I mean, I act in all sorts of different things. I've been through Second City training in Detroit when I lived there, when they still had a school.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. In UCB, I did the program out here in LA, Upright Citizens.
So are you funny?
I have my moments.
We didn't mention comedy, as I was like, I can see you being funny. That's why I'm like, why don't you do more comedy? Or have we? We don't know.
I haven't had the opportunity. So I've done, you know, some dramatic, like drama. You know, I've been the bad guy in dramas. I've been the good guy in dramas. I've been the action guy. I haven't had a lot of opportunities for comedy, but that's something I would like to do. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I do whatever presents itself. Yeah.
You do anything and everything.
Yeah, I guess the reason action, I mean, I love martial arts. I've been doing martial arts my whole life, basically. And I just know that we talk about different levels, like where you are in your career, and in different genres, you might be in different spots. Like in comedy, I've never really had the chance to do much comedy on film, so I haven't done much of that. But martial arts action, it's like, okay, I've done some of that. You know, the bad guy, I've done some of that. But you know, it's like I have a feeling that my biggest break will come through action, specifically martial arts action. Just because
you're really good at it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. But you know, when you specialize in something, and then once you get known, then you can branch out more and more. You know, like, so look at The Rock, for instance. He was
That's a good example.
So he was a big character, you know, on WWE days. But then he came out. I think it was Scorpion King. So he was a big, mean muscle guy. And then he branches out, and now he's in comedies. And
he did the Tooth Fairy movie.
Exactly. So
yeah, I mean, that's a guy that really did action comedy, the whole works.
And then you look at other guys that are like, you have Arnold. Of course, he did that type of thing. He came in and he was just the big muscle guy.
Right.
Then he branches out. Martial artists. You know, we have a handful of really talented martial artists, actors out there, but there aren't a ton of guys. And again, there are some, but there aren't a ton of them that are really strong actors and really strong in martial arts. Usually it's a really strong actor that can do a little bit of martial arts, or
Right.
martial arts that has passable acting. You don't
usually see the mixture of both.
Yeah, and I think part of that, and since you're familiar with Meisner especially, a lot of Meisner is letting go and just letting things come out. So reacting, just letting your reactions happen. And martial arts, a lot of that is, I mean, physically you're reacting, but you're still 100% in control.
Right.
So it's this thing where you're fighting yourself to let your words and your emotions and everything come out. Just let them go. But in the martial arts and the fighting, you have to hold them in and control it. And then that also goes into fighting on film, because you have that going on. You have to let the emotion come out. You have to let it just be free, but at the same time, it has to be 100% control, so you're protecting your partner. So I think that's one of the challenges that we have as, for martial artists that are really strong martial artists as actors is this, this duality of conflicting ways of acting, letting it go or keeping it under wraps.
You're so good about this. Anyways, I thank you so much for coming on here. I need, where can we follow you? There's just like way too much. We have to like see you every like 6 months or something.
Yeah, I think I'd love to come back on my Facebook. I think the handle is just actor Ian Lauer.
Okay.
There's the page, and then there's of course my personal one. But
the page.
And I think it's just Ian Lauer, which is I'm pretty easy to find there. And Twitter and Instagram are Ian Lauer. So yeah, those are
You're
easy.
so fascinating. I seriously could be like every 6 months go. I mean, it's just like you really have such a diverse talent, like so much going on. And I think it's so smart. It's like people don't just have to be one dimensional. It's like you could really have everything, you made it the fitness and you made the acting work. And I love that. I commend your work ethic too, by the way.
Thank you. But, and I guess part of that is, so there are steps. So years ago, a buddy of mine runs a Beverly Hills magazine, and he says to me, hey, why don't you just do this? Just be the actor guy. And at that point, I was getting into fitness modeling. I mean, I was just starting that, and I hadn't had my magazine spreads and stuff yet. And I'm like, Mark, just give me a minute. I'm like, what you have to understand is, I come from where I come from. You put the work in, it takes time, and then you achieve something, and then you put the work in. And I've always been the underdog that always fights. I always end up where I need to go, but I have to get there. You have to take the paces to get there. But at that point, I was still trying to get the magazines and all this other stuff fitness-wise. So it took some time, and I started getting those. And then when you finally, when I was a kid, there's no way I'd ever get into a magazine. Like, no way. But then when that happens, you go, oh, wait, I did that. And then you go, well, wait a second. I used to want to be an actor. I mean, I was an actor.
If I did that, I could do this.
Exactly. And it's building and building and building. And then I would look at when I was doing the fitness modeling and then fitness competing and then martial arts, all of these are pieces to help build the actor. So they're kind of legs on the table. So certain physique for the action figure look, level of skill set for the martial arts, and of course taking acting classes. And so that's the way I approach it, is doing those things and taking those steps. I mean, and hey, maybe I should have just jumped in and been done with it. And I was pursuing it at the same time, but I'm a little more cautious with my approach, so I make sure I'm taking steps in the right direction all the time versus just jumping in and then floundering and giving up. Because had I moved out here to LA when I first graduated, I would have waited tables and got fed up and left probably. But I had to start my training business. I had to do this, had to do that. And because of all those things I had to do, those steps along the way, I've been able to find a way to have longevity in the game. And that's what it takes.
You could teach more than just the fighter. I mean, you could teach some really good classes, really good, all the knowledge you have.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
and experience.
I like to share them.
So everyone needs to follow you. So what was your Instagram? We all need to follow your Instagram.
It's just IANLAUER. Yeah. And I'll send you the links if you want to share or whatever. I'll send you that stuff.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on our show. And we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. And thanks for watching, everybody.